In addition to the project that you are working on, you are going to want the yarn colour that you want to use for your envelope border, an appropriate sized crochet hook to go along with that, some scissors to cut all of your ends, a tapestry needle to weave in all your ends, and a few stitch markers will never go amiss. So let's get started. So as you already know, the idea of the envelope border is to hide all of these ends that we have left over from our project. However, if we want to ensure that it's not going to unravel later, I suggest that we tie a few knots in these ends just to be super sure that nothing will unravel. In order to do that, and you may do this however you wish, I tend to take 2 ends at a time, tie 1 knot, tie 2 knots, and then I will cut the ends in just a moment. So I work in pairs or in threes, depending on whether I've got an even or an odd number of rows along my project until I've tied knots in them all. Meet me then. So once you have tied off all of your ends, you are going to trim them so that they are roughly 2 to 3 centimeters or about 1 inch long. Then you're going to repeat this process with the other end. Now that you have prepared all of your ends, you need to decide where you want your envelope border to lie. Now on a smaller project like this, I'm quite happy to attach the envelope border to this very last stitch and to do the same at the bottom. On the sides, I plan to come just into this pink row here to hide this row at the edge where it's alternating colour. However, if your project is very big or if the yarn is very heavy, you might want to bring your border in slightly so that it's not placing so much strain on the edges of your project when you're using it. In order to make things a little bit easier for myself as I go, I'm going to mark where those corner stitches are going to be. So I'm going to go 1 stitch in at either end because that means I'm going to hide these alternating stitches here. So I will know exactly where to stop when I'm crocheting. In order to start our envelope border, we're actually going to start from the wrong side of your project. Before grabbing your border colour, making a slip knot. There we go. Inserting your hook and pulling it tight. I'm then going to attach my yarn a few stitches away from the corner just because I find this a little easier. Make sure it's nice and secure. Then I'm going to chain 1 to reach working height, and then I'm going to start doing front post double crochets around every stitch until I get to that corner stitch. I'm just going to mark my first stitch so it's easier to find at the end, and then work my way along. The next stitch is my marked corner stitch. So for this stitch, I'm going to do 3 front post double crochets around the stitch, and I'm going to remove my stitch marker and use it to mark the second of those 3, as that will now become the new corner stitch. Next, you're going to turn along your edge where you have all these little ends, and you may, as you work along this edge, have to keep brushing them out of the way because you don't want them stuck in your border. That is completely normal. I'm going to place 1 front post double crochet along each stitch along this edge until I get to this corner stitch. And remember, as I said, I'm not going to work in that very edge stitch. I'm going to come in 1 stitch to that second stitch. That way, once we've completed our entire envelope border, these alternating colours right at the edge will be hidden. So I've just been working into my cream row, so my next front post double crochet needs to go around the pink row. So I've just gone around that last pink row here, moving on to the cream row. So I'm going to do 3 front post double crochets around that marked corner stitch. And just as last time, I'm going to remove that stitch marker and I'm going to place it into the second front post double crochet that I place. So that will be our new corner. Then I'm going to turn After working that corner stitch, exactly as I did on the opposite side, I'm going to do a front post double crochet along each cream stitch along this side. So just as before, when you reach your corner stitch, you're going to place 3 front post double crochets. Next, you're going to go back to that side with all of the ends and start doing front post double crochets around each row. Again, work your way around your corner stitch and along the side. And then once you get back to that very first stitch, you can remove your stitch marker and just slip stitch into that stitch. Now you can make your border as wide or deep as you would like. In order to do that, all you need to do is chain 1 and then start working your preferred stitch. Because I've started with double crochet, I am going to stick with double crochet, and you can just work 1 into the top of every front post double crochet. At the corner stitches, work 3 and again mark that second double crochet and keep doing round after round until you are happy with how deep your border is. When you reach that point, fasten off, cut your yarn, and I will meet you for the next step. I'm going to make my border just 2 rounds deep, so I'm going to chop off my end and weave them in. Now for the moment of truth, we're going to flip our project, and if all has gone well, you will see that you now have a line of your border colour going across those top stitches, a line going down the side. It should also be nice and straight, a little bit harder to see because it is the same colour as the pink, and then a line going across the bottom edge, and then again a line going up this side too. Now, really important thing to do at this stage is just to make sure you haven't got any of your ends caught anywhere in your border. If you do, simply pull them out now. Now we get to work on the right side of our project. We're going to do a very similar process. So we're going to start with a slip knot, insert our hook, make it nice and tight, and attach the yarn. Chain 1 to reach working height, and then make a start. Now, the best bit about having done the other side already is that you can see exactly where to make your stitches, so you know they're going to line up front and back. Keep your border from the back out of the way so you don't accidentally catch it like this underneath a stitch, and off we go. So front post double crochet around each of these first stitches. And I'm going to continue along until I reach the corner stitch. So I am now working on my corner stitch. So I've done 1 front post double crochet, 2 front post double crochet, and I will mark that stitch. I'm then going to do my 3rd front post double crochet before I turn and start working down the shorter side that has all of my ends. So I've just reached my next corner stitch, and just as before, I'm going to do 3 front post double crochets, then turn, and again where every stitch in this line is, so where you can see the pink, you're going to do a front post double crochet, work your corner, work along your last edge here with lots of ends, work your corner, work along this edge here, and join back up to the start with a slip stitch. Then exactly like with the other side, you're going to mirror it by chaining 1 and then placing a, for me, double crochet into every stitch, 3 in the marked corner stitches, and as you may recall, I only did 1 extra round all the way around before slip stitching. Only difference being, once you've slip stitched for your final round, however many rounds that may be, do not fasten off this time. I shall meet you there. So as you can see, I have finished my final round, so I'm temporarily going to take out my hook and pop in a stitch marker. Next, I'm going to have a look all the way around the edges, just to make sure that none of the short ends have got stuck and need removing. So I think I managed to avoid them all, which is good. So the next thing that I'm going to do, now that I've made it back to the start, is to weave in this end from where I attached my yarn. Once that end is woven in, which you can see I have now done, now for the fun part. So keeping this tail out of the way, we're now going to start closing our envelope. So we're going to be hiding all of these little ends inside it. So starting with your corner stitches, I'm going to use stitch markers to make this easier. I'm going to join the layers together. It helps that we marked these stitches earlier to make this step that little bit easier. Okay, so that was my final corner where I've joined the layers together. Now, next step is personal preference. You could just, okay, this is my corner, work along the edge holding them together. However, I find it a little bit easier if I add a number of stitch markers just to hold things together. So I'm going to do that now. So you simply know that's your corner, line up a number of stitches together, and then place a stitch marker just to hold the layers together, and keep repeating that around all four sides. So once you've added all of your stitch markers, we are ready to start off on the next step. So remove your stitch marker and grab your yarn. I have already taken the liberty of chaining one. We're then going to go through that same stitch, find the corresponding stitch on the back and make a single crochet. And I'm going to mark this stitch so that I can find it again at the end. Now the important step for this is to keep your tension nice and loose, otherwise you will distort the shape of your border. So going through all 4 loops, so the top V of the double crochet from the front of the envelope and from the back of the envelope, pop your hook through to do your single crochet. Now for each pair of double crochets that you made, you will do a single crochet. When you reach the corner stitch, which you will have to pick out by eye because I've not used different colours, you will do 3 single crochet, and you're going to do this all the way around before finishing with a slip stitch. So let me just finish this last stitch here, work the corner, and then I will show you how to work the side with all of the ends. Now, whilst it's not strictly necessary, I am still marking my corner stitches because I have yet to block this project, and it will just make it a little bit easier at the end. So if we turn to the side that has all of our little ends in it, as you can see, we are, yes, going to keep doing single crochets as we go along. And for example, for this first section, it looks quite easy. As you get a bit further along, in places you will find that you have to just tuck the ends inside the envelope before you crochet above it. We do not want any ends poking out at this stage because trying to get them back into your envelope border afterwards is going to be a lot trickier. I shall meet you at the end of this round and we shall see how it looks. So as you can see, I have now finished my final round. I just need to fasten off and weave in my ends. And I still have my marked corner stitches just so that I can block things a little easier. But that is it. You should not have any bits sticking out. And your envelope border goes all the way around, concealing any ends that could be within. The back looks just as neat as the front. And you're done.